Afternoon, everyone, and welcome to SNAC School Module 6, SNAC for Indigenous Research and Reference, part of SNAC's new series of training programs with a focus on Indigenous topics. Your instructors for today are myself, Ia Colin Bull, Agoma Smoke, Jerry Simmons, with Scotty Beeland assisting us in recordings. I want to start off with a land acknowledgement. We, as representing the SNAC Cooperative, the SNAC servers are based at the University of Virginia, and the Indigenized SNAC team is centered in the University of Maryland in College Park, all located on the ancestral territories of the Piscataway, Nacotchtank, and their Indigenous kin and neighbors. Specifically, as members of the University of Maryland, a land-grant university, we acknowledge the 202,000 acres of stolen Indigenous land and distributed to the university under the Morrill Act in 1862, acknowledging that the separation, that these and many other acts of colonialism, assimilation, and genocide, which includes archival collection, generates between Indigenous peoples and their homelands. And we further acknowledge the continued power and resilience of Indigenous nations and communities. And we want to celebrate the collaborative and decolonial work now taking place in collections and institutions, specifically centering archival and museum work. But also, most importantly, land acknowledgements only go so far as they redirect resources. So we want to share a few different initiatives coming from across the United States. With the QR codes on the screen, you are welcome to scan them or go to the Facebook page of Matriarch, which is based in Oklahoma City. They're currently undergoing website renovations, as it were. We also want to note, as a brief content warning, that the presentation has some outdated terminology as presented in SNAC. And though we are picking records and searches to highlight Indigenous representation within SNAC, lack of representation and controlled vocabulary may be evident. This presentation also mentions Native boarding schools, specifically in the context of archival holdings at the National Archives and Record Administration. So first, our objectives today are to define SNAC, learn what SNAC does, find SNAC online, learn the components of SNAC records and what those components mean, and explore entity descriptions in SNAC via CPF, that is corporate, person, and family names, through the relations. At the end of our session, we will have time for questions, answers, and demonstrations. Finally, we invite you all to follow along in your own SNAC session. No logins are required for reference and research. Feel free to try navigating and searching as we move through the program. Simply go to snaccooperative.org and follow along with your own searches as you wish. And hopefully the link will be commented. So introducing the Indigenized SNAC project, which I mentioned earlier. It started with the 2021 Editathon and has been a huge collaborative effort from numerous parties. And introducing myself in relation to the project, I'm a graduate research assistant on the project and started in 2022. But the Indigenized SNAC project has been trying to push forward the Indigenous SNAC series, of which today's research and reference is a part of. So starting with an overview of SNAC, we have a quote from the previous SNAC executive director and the creator of SNAC, to kind of put into perspective what his idea of SNAC can do over time, who is now retired from the program, of which the position is now filled by Jerry Simmons. So what is SNAC? Social Networks and Archival Context is a free online resource that helps users discover biographical and historical information about corporate bodies, that is, organizations, individual persons, and families that created or are documented in historical resources, primary source documents, and their connections to one another in such primary source documents. The example here shows the SNAC record for former poet laureate Joy Harjo, record for the Muskogee Creek Nation. Harjo is identified as a, quote, member of the Indigenous nation, which is described in context inside the records for each. And it would be in the relations here. So behind SNAC, and pardon, this is a little nitty-gritty and nerdy for a second. The archival description that is providing the standard for SNAC is EAC CPF, or Encoded Archival Context for Corporate Body, Person, and Family Names. It is the standard behind SNAC. This standard enables description of organizations, persons, and families who created or are subjects in cultural heritage resources. SNAC also enables contextual relationship linking to the cultural heritage materials wherever they are described around the world. And it enables contextual relationship links between entities described in the system. We'll see examples of these links soon. EAC CPF works hand in hand with EAD, which is a more common archival description, which stands for Encoded Archival Description, a widely used archival standard for marking up and sharing archive finding aids. So a little bit more specifically on the output of SNAC, it provides ways for researchers or users in general to find and locate distributed archival materials and heritage materials around the globe. In this slide, you can see Wilma Mankiller, her record, which points to the various resources housed at these different repositories across the mostly eastern United States. So when looking for resource locations, you can see that, or you can follow these to the repository websites as linked within. And I can go ahead and demonstrate the Wilma Mankiller SNAC record for you. As we had pointed to before, go ahead and pull up OSU's interviews. Well, so the shared related resources feature lets a researcher see the connections between entities and the context of shared resources. Here you can see demonstrated how this works between Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass, initiated by a click on the back and forth icon, which is right here, these little arrows going both directions, in the relationship tab. We can show you how the relationship between two entities is documented in original cultural heritage materials. There, this is right. So SNAC also sheds light on the many social dimensions of cultural heritage materials. SNAC provides integrated access to said materials, no matter their location. When a researcher accesses the list of resources, SNAC displays integrated links to archival descriptions, most likely archival finding aids. By clicking those integrated links, this moves the researcher from SNAC to the description source on the web, no matter the location. But SNAC also allows linking to non-finding aid descriptions on other types of description platforms. One great example of this is the SNAC record for artist and quilter Almira Buffalo Bone Jackson. The National Museum of the American Indian holds a number of Jackson's quilts in its artifact collection. And in this demonstration, we can see that Jackson's SNAC record links to the NMAI Collections database website on the Resources tab for her record. So accessing SNAC, going more to the search feature, you can simply navigate to the snaccooperative.org. Once you arrive at the site, you're immediately prompted to start a search of your own. For my demonstration, I'm going to focus on Jim Thorpe's SNAC record. If you have an entity of interest in mind, you're welcome to follow along with your own search. From the mosaic screen at the intro SNAC, as soon as you open up the site, you'll see a number of figures that have Wikimedia images linked to their entities within the mosaic screen. But you can narrow your search along the search bar function. So if you were looking specifically for a person, you could go through here, click a person to narrow your search results. Make sure you're not pulling up organizations. After you run a search, click the blue link in the results list to access the full record. Note the full record is divided into tabs: bibliography, resources, relationships, place, subjects, and occupations. It's important that researchers understand the structure of SNAC records and basic navigation in order to benefit from all the information presented. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pass this off to Agoma.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to share my screen as well. Okay, and I want to make sure, can everyone see this just fine?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so hi, everyone. We are now going to cover basic searching in SNAC. So as you'll see, most everything you do in SNAC is searching. So even clicking links between entity records is really asking SNAC to do another search for you. We can demo Jim Thorpe's record for this, as Ia showed, and we'll return to this as well. With SNAC's basic search, researchers begin discovery with simple keywords to locate entity names. So note here that SNAC casts a wide or broad net over person and corporate body names based on the keywords Jim Thorpe. So here's an early look of SNAC's power of contextual linking between related entities. So here you'll see, as Ia, when they searched for Jim Thorpe and it clicked the results and it took you to Jim Thorpe's record. So under the relationships tab, if you look to the relations column and you look down, you see parent of, and you'll see Grace Thorpe, which is Jim Thorpe's daughter. So when you click on that link, it'll take you to Grace Thorpe's SNAC record. And in turn, if you were to do the same for Grace Thorpe and you went to relationships and then the relationships type, hers will be a child of, linking her back to Jim Thorpe, which I think is pretty incredible. So now it's your turn to give it a try. Please feel free to unmute and share your experience. So, did you find the entity you hoped for? Does it have a detailed description? Any other thoughts? So, we'll take a pause here and give everyone a chance to do a search. So, try searching for an entity you know is represented in the holdings of any repositories you're familiar with or worked with. You can always search one presented in the mosaic to start exploring. So, after a bit, let us know if you have any questions. So taking a pause here to give everyone a chance to do a search. And just to name a few, here's Ada Walker, Jim Thorpe that we just looked at, Juliet Lowe, Gordon family, has Sidney Poirier, Sacagawea. So just to name a few. So feel free to do a bit of search and we'll return after, say, about 5 minutes. Okay, I hope everyone had fun exploring SNAC. So we're moving on now. So SNAC's browse search. SNAC search feature allows for a comfortable alphabetical display of entity headings, but requires some forethought of the entity's heading formation. So note the application of the person filter as entity type criteria for this particular search. When you find a match on the browse results list, simply click the heading on the list and the full SNAC record will appear. So this is an example for searching for Kamehameha. So when in the search bar, when you type in Kamehameha, again, drop down different names appears, and you definitely want to make sure you select the right person. So for this instance, we're looking for King Kamehameha the third, king of the Hawaiian Islands from 1813 to 1854. So once you click and select that option, it'll take you to the results. And again, make sure it's the correct results that you want to go to. So once you click on the link, it'll take you to the record. And there you have it. You're at King of the Hawaiian Islands, Kamehameha III. So next, we're looking at filtering by entity type. So applying the corporate body filter provides search results for the keyword criteria, but only for organizations or corporate names described in SNAC. So I'll demonstrate filters changes for the audience, but please try this on your own if you wish. So note that headings for similarly named entities have qualifiers to differentiate them. Identical names for person entities are differentiated by life dates when they are known. Family names often have geographic place qualifiers to differentiate them from very common family names. So, for example, you have the corporate body. So again, we have all types, and you select the particular entity. In this case, is corporate body, and you'll type in Agua Caliente Cultural, and again, it'll give you the selection to choose from, and which would be Agua Caliente Cultural Museum. And so when you click there, it'll take you to the results that are presented. You'll click on that, and it'll take you to the record for the which also holds the which is the Holden repository. Okay, and next we're also going to look at filtering by entity type, corporate body, organization. So to explore institutional records in SNAC, you can filter by entity type and select corporate body. For example, searching the National Museum of American Indian reveals a list of holdings connected to their collections. So one example is the sculpture Raven Steals the Sun by the Tlingit artist Preston Singletary, which links directly to its full catalog record at the NMAI. And so I would like to do a demonstration for this one. And I just want to make sure, can everyone see SNAC just fine?
Yes.
SNAC Cooperative. Okay, perfect. Okay, so in the search bar, you want to type, I had it pre-selected to make it faster. But once you type in the name, you see the two options you have here. What we want is National Museum of American Indian. So we select here. And again, all types, you want to go to corporate body just to help narrow down the search. You hit search here. And then you receive the results. In this case, it's 2. And you know that at this time, we do not want the Archive Center. We want the first link. We go there. And so now we're on the National Museum of American Indian record. And so what we want to do, you see the different tabs that you had discussed before, we want to go to Holdings. So once you click on Holdings, what I like to do personally, it shows 10 entries. I like to expand it to 50. You can do 100 if you like. It's whichever preference you have, but I'm going for 50. And so it's in alphabetical order, which is wonderful. So you'll scroll down until you see Raven Stills the Sun, and you'll click on it. And it'll take you to this throne link to the National Museum of the American Indian. So Raven Stills the Sun. And there you're able to see it. And you scroll down and you'll get to see all of the wonderful information that's attached. So, okay, going back to slide. So next, we're going to look at filter by corporate bias for boarding schools. So names of Native American boarding schools are classified as corporate bodies, and there are several hundred described in SNAC. So here's just one example of how SNAC record for Native boarding schools links of descriptions of federal records held in various repositories at the National Archives. So this example for the Greenville Indian Industrial Boarding School in Greenville, California, shows immediate links to that school's record held at the NARA San Francisco Regional Archives. So when you're in this particular record for the Greenville Indian Industrial Boarding School, you'll look for the different tabs again, which is very important. You'll look for resources, and again, you'll see the different roles, the titles, the holder repository. And so for this particular example, we're looking for the role of contributor of, and you'll see the administrative files from 1897 to 1923. So when you click on that, it'll work just when I showed you about Raven Stills the Sun. You'll click on it and it'll take you directly to the National Archives catalog for the administrative files. And then further down, if you look for the role of career of, and you're looking at the outgoing correspondence of the superintendent and clerk in charge, you click on that, and again, it'll take you to that external link in the National Archives catalog. So thank you very much. I'm now going to pass this over to Jerry.
Thanks, Agoma. Hi, everyone. My name is Jerry Simmons. I am the new director of SNAC. I am the immediate former, I guess, director or lead of the SNAC school. I see a lot of familiar names in the class this morning or this afternoon. So it's good to see many of you, new names and faces I'm very excited to meet. I am going to be presenting the last portion of the session today, starting with the advanced search features. Starting with SNAC's advanced searching. We want to have a look at SNAC's more granular search options. Under SNAC's advanced searching options, researchers can explore more than just name headings. the first advanced search toggle is search biographies. In this example, I'm going to set the search biography to toggle on and in the search bar, I'm going to add the keywords Seneca and craftsman. These are demonstrated here on the slides, but I'm going to do a demo of this. And to find the search, you can go here and you see the toggles for search biographies, advanced and faceted. I'm going to toggle on search biographies. I'll leave my filters at all types. And here I will put in Seneca, craftsman. And as expected, one of our results is for Jesse Corn Planter. Click there. The blue link takes us to his full SNAC record. And if you were to quickly do an eye scan of the biography note, you will find at least one instance of the word Seneca and one instance of the words craftsman. This is just one of many examples of how you can scan through SNAC based on the keyword text of the biography notes. So then let's have a closer look at other advanced searches. In this example, I'm setting the advanced search toggle to on. And in the search bar, adding the search phrase government plus treaty plus agency. Note here on this screen, SNAC prompts you with definitions for different types of searching conventions, what we have traditionally called Boolean search operators. They're presented here and defined on the screen for your help. I'm also going to set my filter to specifically corporate body records in SNAC. Search biographies on as part of the advanced search. Then clicking in, finding the SNAC record for this particular corporate body for the Crow Indian Agency, and then proceed to explore the record as both Ia and Ogoma have well demonstrated before on your different roles, the titles of the collections or holdings you will be linked to, and then the holding repository for those materials as they are found around the globe, really. SNAC has a global reach. We are not just limited to what we have in archival holdings here on this continent, but all around the world. Okay, something a bit more complicated, as we are, after all, doing advanced searching. So under this umbrella of advanced search, SNAC allows for more focused searching using wildcard or asterisk searches. This works in combination with faceted search, which allows researchers to apply filters by subjects, occupation, and activities, all of which are controlled concept vocabularies inside SNAC. These advanced and faceted searches greatly enhance searching power, but it does take some practice to get the hang of it. I'll demonstrate the example seen here, but please feel free to search with combinations of control terms on your own. So note in the screen snap here, I've set the filter for, or I will set the filter for person, but I've typed in an asterisk. Here on the slides in the Zoom presentation, it doesn't come across very clearly, but that little dot there is really an asterisk. And under subjects, I've added the term Seneca art. And excuse me, under occupations, I've added the occupation term sculptors. Now, sort of blowing the surprise is that Jesse Cornplanter's SNAC record has these terms embedded in the description of his entity in SNAC, but that's what we're really going for here. So give me 1 second. Let's get back to my SNAC screen. I'm going to go all the way to the front to search. I'm going to set it to person, add an asterisk here, click advanced search, and faceted. And when I move that toggle for faceted search from off to on, notice that the bottom part of the screen comes alive, and this is where we can add headings. Now, SNAC helps you find these topical occupation and activities headings, which is a huge help in your searching. And all you have to do is start typing and give it a second. There's Seneca Art. And then under occupations, remember we had decided sculptors. And there you go, just choose that from the list. And already, which you couldn't see off the screen, is that as I added each of these, or the first heading, it was already thinking about narrowing down the results that it would give us back. And we added Seneca Art and Sculptors together, and that is very specific to Jesse Cornplanter's SNAC record. Here is where subject headings are entered under the Subjects tab, and then occupation terms under the Occupations tab. Activities we'll see in just a second. So as promised, I will demonstrate how to search for activities. It's important to remember that activities terms, or what we have in the past referred to as function terms, are used to specifically describe the behavior or the activities or functions of corporate bodies, or which are also referred to as organizations. In this particular example, I'm going to use a combination of a subject term and an activities term to get a very specific expected return in my SNAC search. Notice here I have we'll have the filter set to corporate body. I will add that very important asterisk. I will click the toggles on for advanced and faceted again is what gives us the option for adding subjects. And going back to search, corporate, add my asterisk, advanced, faceted, and here, education. And under activities, African American. It may take a while because the longer the term, the longer it takes to find it. And notice on the what's coming up so far, before I even add in the activities term, SNAC is already locating for us corporate body records in SNAC that have the subject heading or subject term education. But as soon as we cement this, it does a great job of narrowing down the results that match our search criteria here, and as expected, the corporate body record for Howard University. Again, the resources, the relationships, the places, subjects, where we would see education, and activities, African American universities and colleges. So I have a note here for myself to pause for questions if there are any, admitting that these last few search maneuvers are a bit more on the technical and granular side, so please let me know. We also have another built-in pause so that you can try these advanced searches on your own during this presentation. So to help folks along, we're giving you some searching suggestions. For subjects, you can try art or biology or chemistry or any of these subject terms you see here. Notice that we do have there are subject headings for specific types of Native American groups like Crow Indians, Mohawk Indians, Teton Indians, but also other groups like lawyers, veterans. So those are just the wide sort of reach of subject terms. Occupations, a little bit more self-explanatory, but it contains terms that don't really define or specify a job like we would just like think of having a job, like lawyer or flutist or poet. It also includes such headings as athletes, comedians, biologists, publishers, and so forth, so on. And then again, last, if you're searching for corporate body entities in SNAC, you can use activities terms to further narrow down these advanced searches. So take a few minutes to run some searches on your own and let us know if you have any comments or any questions about the way the advanced searches work. Okay, are there any questions about how the advanced searches work, especially with the faceted searches for subjects, occupations, and activities? I don't see any questions in the chat, but do feel free to speak up if you have a question. Okay, now we're going to move on to exploring SNAC through relations and resources. But first, a bit of explanation. So what is a resource? In this context, in SNAC, a resource is any number or type of cultural heritage materials gathered as a collection in a library, archive, museum, or like institution. So then what is a resource relation? That's a specific contextual relationship described between resources and an entity as creator of, contributor of, referenced in, and editor of, or editor of. Those are the four main relation types that occur in SNAC between a person, corporate body, or family, and the resources or archival collections or museum collections that they've created or that are about them. It's important to remember that not everything in SNAC that makes a contextual relationship between, say, a person and an archival collection means that that person created those records. In many cases, the relationships you see presented in SNAC are truly subject or aboutness. So that's where you would see a lot of referenced in as the resource relation. But we'll have a closer look at that. In the example given here for Wilma Mankiller, I highlight the resources tab of her SNAC record. And under that, then you see creator of the Wilma Mankiller collection. So this is very obvious. You're going to see creator of when the relationship context is that the person, corporate body, or family created the archival collection. So that's rather straightforward. There are more nuanced examples that you'll learn about as you start to experience SNAC more frequently. I want to show you quickly, again, pardon the jump out to SNAC, but I do want to demonstrate how to change the profile of the way that the relations present themselves. But I also like to point out how quickly one can get to the record of a particular person, family, or organization in SNAC by doing that very simple search. So here are the resources related to Wilma Mankiller in her record. Let's see, there. Oh, that one's for audio recordings at the Clinton Library. Note that there are only 5 resources related here. And in that far left column is the role. So this is where we see the specific context described, where she's referenced in Alice Walker Papers. She's the creator of her own interview. oral history interview that is. She's the subject of, or in, the Michelle Wallace papers, and she's the subject in records of the U.S. Agency for Global Media. That's at the National Archives. And then again, of course, creator of Wilma Mankiller Collection. If you have the desire to do it, you can organize all the creator of relationships at the top of your list, and it will resort. If you just simply click that arrow by the word role, it will reorder these so that you can organize the way that you're seeing the results for her resources. And then, of course, I should also demonstrate how easily a simple click here moves you from SNAC directly to the Alice Walker papers at Emory University Libraries. And then you continue to your exploration there to find out exactly how and where Wilma Mankiller fits into this collection of Alice Walker's papers. Okay, moving forward. So discovering social relations and social networks. There are many, probably millions upon millions, because currently SNAC contains about 3 million authority records, as most of us are familiar with, like Library and Archives authority records. And among those 3 point some million SNAC records, there are many, many relationship types described for each of those 3.4 plus million records. So here's just one example out of many. And I'll highlight some of the common relationship types. Frequently, you will see associated with, which is, yes, admittedly, a high level general description of the relationship between two entities. But then you also have acquaintance of and corresponded with. Those are some very popular ones. But more specific relationship types are founder of, founded by, member of, has member, parent of, sibling of. We saw the example of parent of when Ugoma was demonstrating the records for Jim Thorpe and Grace Thorpe. In this particular example, we had the snap outs for Wole Soyinka and for Desmond Tutu, noting that each one of them is mentioned or related on each other's record in the context of corresponded with. And then also, as Ugoma demonstrated earlier, maybe Ia demonstrated, the back and forth symbol will have a breakout of where you can see in which collections these two are related. There's a lot of deep diving to be done in SNAC records. So then exploring your research outside of SNAC. To complement your SNAC search, each entity description contains links to explore descriptions and related searches outside of SNAC. The external related CPF element holds links to descriptions of the same entity found in resources like the VIOF, or the Virtual International Authority File, Wikidata, and the LCNEF, or the Library of Congress Name Authority File. These links are listed as related descriptions on the public-facing version of the SNAC record. Related descriptions links lead to entity description in these well-known resources, and you can then further explore once you've reached those resource sites. Clicking the Search Elsewhere button initiates searches in Archives Grid, so those are descriptions of cultural heritage resources found in OCLC, and in DIPLA, the Digital Public Library of America. Clicking on those options from, there's one example we'll do here for Susie Walking Bear Yellowtail. And pardon while I quickly jump out. I will find her record. There she is. Again, notice how easily SNAC sort of like pushes you along. It starts to anticipate what your full search will be as you start to type in even keywords for a name. There's Susie's record. We click there. Um, Full disclosure, you do not see her image, though you do see it on the slide. That is a little extra edit I did, so we would have an image. Imaging in SNAC records works through or is based upon the availability of a free image through Wiki Commons and Wikidata. And in this case, there wasn't one, but I fudged it a little bit on the slides so it would have a more impactful presentation. So, related descriptions. SNAC will automatically push you to Wikidata, to the Library of Congress or the NACO, Name Authority Cooperative. There's her record at the Library of Congress. And at the VIOF, or it should accept everything, the Virtual International Authority file. And again, that is a service run by OCLC. Going back to the SNAC record, we go further down to search elsewhere. So the first one is to archive grid, and that's again a service run by OCLC. It's important to note that it's not taking you to an authority record for Susie Walking Bear Yellowtail in this system. It's simply initiating a search for you based on the complementary name heading that's found in OCLC. So here you can see where SNAC has some clear connections to OCLC, the Library of Congress name file, Wikidata, and other sources like it. And they're all sort of integrated in there. They're linked together in a permanent way so that you have a seamless sort of path of discovery as you work through the records. And then, of course, you just continue to explore in that resource. And the last one I'll do is her Diplo search, where it goes, oh, there we go. I just changed it around a bit, but I do need to update that link in the demonstration. So that's how all of that is done. So to recap the session, we now know how to locate and access SNAC online, remembering that it's free to use as a research and reference tool. You don't need a login or a password or an account or a membership. We've learned how to discover entity descriptions and locate resources in holding repositories. And we also now understand contextual links to archival collections and contextual links between entities. So questions and answers and learning more. Here are links that you can follow to become a member of SNAC, more information about training events, and then information about how to contact the Indigenized SNAC group or the Indigenous Description Group, which is headquartered at the University of Maryland.
Okay, I have a question.
Okay.
So, can you browse by those subject terms, like without entering a search term?
As far as I know, you cannot. I
Okay.
don't think that's a feature, but what I can do is, let me see. Hold on a second.
I discovered that's why I was getting that weird message earlier.
Oh, okay. I'll add an asterisk. All types. See, it's I'm I'm sorry, I forgot also. I was like, I hope they're not, I hope they're seeing this, but I was demonstrating the way. So what I did here was sort of like trying to just see if I could trick it into showing. So what I did was I went to advanced search, left the filter at all types. I added an asterisk. I put it on advanced search and faceted so that it would present the subjects and occupations activities. And I typed in the letter A, and that takes you, of course, to the top of the A alphabet, but then that's a long scroll through an alphabetical setup of the headings. And to get to the B's, you would have to do this, and that's clunky, admittedly. But that's interesting. I don't know if I've ever had that question in all these years, if we could search. I don't think there is a browse search for just the subjects. The browse exists really just for the named entities. And then you get you're given an alphabetical presentation. So that's a great question, but I don't have an immediate solution for that.
So I will say another option other than just like trying to look through the subjects in that way is if you go to a search uh, and make any sort of basic search, you will be able to refine results by the subjects. So if you just typed in Cherokee, for example, you're going to get a lot of records. So yeah, Jerry, if you don't mind. And then you can see along the right side there, you can.
Oh, yes,
Yep.
that's a great point. And then click on these to further narrow the search. Is that what you're saying, Ian?
Yeah, and it gives you a picture of what subjects are used in records right now.
Interesting. Okay. God, that's a great tip. Thank you. But notice then here, you have to be sort of mindful of what you've asked SNAC for. And you're asking here for just the keyword Cherokee, not specifically Cherokee Indians or Cherokee Nation. You're asking just for that keyword. So that's why you're getting to here, South Carolina Magistrates Court, Cherokee County. So context, and you have to be aware of what it is you're asking SNAC to do. That's a good tip, though. Thank you so much, Ia, for that. I've not considered using the refined search, but there you go. Are there any other questions?
I have one. When you're doing a search and you come up with when you're doing relationships search and you're coming up with relationships that list repositories and different things, does that include relationships that are documented just by special collections or by books or both?
Generally, what you would be seeing, I'm going to go to something where I get one that was an example from the slide, so I have something to cue off of. I talked about in the slide presentation the relationship links between, and I'm going to set, you can filter this just to the relationships, especially for someone who is so widely known as Desmond Tutu. You would imagine a great number of relationships. SNAC lets you filter to just his person relationships, his corporate relationships, and then the family relationships as they are in the context of SNAC. So I'll change it to person. Walinka was the, oops. Oh, what was that? Goodness. Hold on. Sorry. Relationships. Oh, here he is. Wole Soyinka. There's that example I demonstrated. It's in the slides, corresponded with, and so you can move to Wole Soyinka's record this way. And then looking at the relationships. And it also has this feature where you can further narrow down what you're seeing. So to Desmond Tutu, and then to the shared related resources. So this is where SNAC tells you the specific collection where both of these entities are connected based, both of them are referenced in this collection. But what this is going to take you to are almost always archival or special collections, not to bibliographic resources.
That was my question.
Yes, because SNAC really does strive to get you to the primary source materials, the archives, special libraries. So yes, it generally does not take you to relationships where they're mentioned in like a particular publication together.
Great, thank you.
Sure, that was a great question, and thank you. Okay, great questions. Thank you all. Are there any other questions before we dismiss the class?
Just to reframe that question, if people have questions, from everybody's kind of experimental use of just the demonstration time period today, does anybody see any limitations to how SNAC can be used for their own particular purposes, or just out of curiosity that we might be able to address today? And that includes things like you didn't see a certain field mentioned, you didn't see a language listed, you didn't see a variant name, so on and so forth, and whether those are things that you might limit kind of your own usage for SNAC.
You're welcome, Sabrina. I hope it's been helpful. Yeah, that was a dark mode. Oh, I understand what you mean. Yes. Hmm. Always something for the wish list.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a huge priority.
Not so much glaring white space. Okay.
Ashley has her hand raised, and
Oh,
then
I'm sorry, Ashley, go ahead. And thank you for joining, Ashley. I'm very happy to see you in the group today. What's your question?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for hosting this. I was wondering if there is ever going to be like an output to upload media in relation to entities, like some of the actual archival research that we come across, if there is permission to publish online.
I'm not quite sure I understand your question.
So say I'm researching and writing on a historical figure, and in the course of this research, it's been very site specific, and I've pulled data, images, information very specific. Would it be possible to upload like a gallery in the future? Or is that like a limitation?
I am not sure that I really have a clear answer for that. I can say that, excuse me, that if you're seeing images in SNAC, like those that accompany the entity records, especially for persons, where it's an image of a person's face, we're only using those if they're free to use through Wiki Commons. So in that regard, that's fine because that's coming from an already free source outside of SNAC. Whatever you link to, like if you really sort of start to burrow down through a SNAC record, and you're jumping on the resource relation links out to other library and archive websites to see their finding aids, that then becomes a permission issue for that institution. So if you're going to their finding aid, or in some cases their online catalog, because we saw the demonstration or the example at least for how things work connecting to resources at the National Archives and Records Administration catalog, because they don't do finding aids, they do catalog records. So it would mean a conversation with that institution or whatever statement of use or restrictions are apparent in the finding aids. That would, I think that's where that would, you're off SNAC at that point. You're on a different resource platform. So that's where the permissions for use would start there, I think, because SNAC doesn't control where you go after you've gone from the SNAC record out to a resource. I hope that made some sense.
It does. Sorry to.
No, it's really good. There's nothing like a good question to flesh out your Q&A repertoire. Diana, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was just thinking that that's like a super, super interesting question. And I had two thoughts. The first was that I think, ideally, if you get really good at SNAC editing, on the, doing the full backend SNAC editing, right? You could be fleshing out a lot of that research via the actual platform itself, right? To be adding new historical figures that maybe aren't already in SNAC and linking those records, to be, fleshing out all those different relationships, and also to be editing yourself the biographical historical note that describes those peoples and, et cetera. So that, I think that ideally, right, one of the reasons that we're really excited to get, broader training, especially from folks who maybe don't have an archival background, is that, historians and Indigenous scholars and folks who know this content could be in these all the different various layers of the SNAC, entity interface, and be, doing that interpretive representational work that institutional archives have not done very well, right? And that this can exist outside of that. So that seems like, thinking about how to do that in better ways that feel like they kind of can encompass all of that depth of research in this system is one of the, I think, tensions, because it does have, of course, a lot of sort of preset fields and et cetera. But the other thing that I wanted to say was just that it's interesting because actually when we've started working with SNAC, one of the benefits that some of our advisory board felt were inherent in SNAC were that it doesn't actually contain collections itself, and that it is a location tool, a finding tool, a search tool, and an aggregator, but that because it is not itself a holding repository or sharing out the media, that actually adds a layer of protection for Indigenous collections, and that the role then has to be kind of working with those institutions to let them know that, for instance, that said image should not be online or whatever. So it's interesting. I think actually a lot of our discussions, at least in the Indigenized SNAC project, have almost been the opposite. How do we make sure there's not too much of the actual archival content or media material going up, because those things require all of the community protocols around those things. Whereas SNAC can just say, if you're interested in this, historical figure or your community, you might find stuff here, and it might be in these collections, and you can get that far. And then at that point, it's not SNAC to be the one to do that. So anyway, I don't know. I just was thinking that that's an interesting, I so appreciate your question, Ashley. And it's something I think we'll think about a lot in the next couple months.
Thank you.
So that's actually a good segue into the next question that I was going to ask is if Jerry, you can give a little demonstration of, in a conversation I had with Ashley last week, we looked up the Field Museum of Natural History, and that exists as a corporate body entry, but it also exists as the holding repository because there are resources there that are associated. And can you kind of give an overview of what the difference is between those? Because you can't search for holding repositories here. But if you search the Field Museum of Natural History and you search all types, you'll find it. And then it'll give you a list of the resources that are associated. So my question is if somebody was an employee at the Field Museum, if they'd be able to update their holding repositories page or entry and add collections manually.
So yes, I'm just going to ask, am I looking at the correct Field Museum of Natural History? I'm guessing the one in Chicago, right?
Yep. So this is the corporate body
Okay.
entry. Yeah.
So first observations here is that this SNAC record could use some work. And those who, that's why we always find it a very unique opportunity to have a representative of a particular institution um, join one of these SNAC school events and say, hey, my institution isn't well described here. Well, that's where we say, come on aboard and give us a hand. So what we don't see in this SNAC record is a history note. If there is a biography note for a person or a family, or a history note for a corporate body, the history tab is the default display. So what that means is that there was no history available when information was ingested. And like just a word about the research and development in ingest is that most of the information about entities that you find in SNAC came from our big ingest of EAD finding aids, tens of thousands of them, but also millions of authority records from the Library of Congress, OCLC, VIOF, and others here and there. But for whatever reason, there was no history note data for Field Museum. Now, it also, because this SNAC record doesn't have, and I'm moving my cursor here at the end to the right of activities, if there was holding information about the actual holding, the artifact holding, or the collections holdings of the Field Museum, there would be a holding tab here, and you click holdings, and just like the demonstration Ogoma did for the National Museum of the American Indian, where you move from a list of their holdings, click on one of the items like Raven stealing the sun, and it moves to that description in NMAI's collection system. That's an example of an institution's holdings being here. Now, on the resources tab, what you're presented with are archival, special library, or other collections that were created by the Field Museum, like its own archives, which is something also I would love to see if we can get folks in the Field Museum archives involved to get their stuff in here. And then so on, and things that are held there in their archives, these different collections referenced in all these. So we see a lot of referenced in where this entity is the subject. Let me see if this is going to make me a clean jump. No, it went to the. You will also find occasionally that you click on a resource and it sort of pushes you through the extra step of going through WorldCat at OCLC, and that's a known issue, and it's not anything that's a problem. It just creates an extra layer. But yes, you can associate this to like physical holdings of the institution, not just archival resources that are about or by it. When you find a corporate entity, because all holding repositories are corporate entities, but not all corporate entities have been yet identified as holding repositories. So I hope somebody was recording that. I don't know if I could repeat that again. If you look at National Museum, you'll notice two things about the SNAC record that were different from the Field Museum record. The first is that there is this little gray tab here under the heading with what looks like a Federal Record Center box image. It's sort of hard to see here, but holding repository. This means that the National Museum of the American Indian has been designated as a holding repository for some kind of archival collections, special library collections, and on. That's why the resources are here, but it also gives it a holdings tab. So that's that's the second thing the Field Museum record did not have. It didn't have a holdings tab. And this is where you get to the immediate links to the collections, which I find to be one of the more, I, I find it to be fascinating, useful, innovative, and in this particular case, one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. So that's my plug for. So to Ashley and to anyone else whose institution has these types of collection holdings, once the corporate body is described and SNAC editor starts to attribute resources to that corporate body, it gets its little holding repository designation and it gets a holdings tab, and all of those collections start to file in order. You see here that they are in alpha. Let me see if this one works. In some cases, they have a redirect. No, there it goes. God, that's wonderful. Look at that. I find this phenomenal. So it's
follow up on
one of those selling points that we've talked about over the years, where this type of a feature really does set SNAC apart from other traditional or library authority files. Is that if you were to go to the Library of Congress name authority file and look up National Museum of American Indian, yes, the authority record is there. The heading is the same, and there are variants and all that good stuff, but there aren't links to actual archival collections, primary resources, or certainly not museum collections, right? This is something that SNAC has been developed to do that is a real giant step beyond what traditional authority resources can provide. So I will also, this is a good place to mention that we have an event coming up, SNAC School for Create and Edit. Anyone in this audience who is interested in becoming an editor, creator, member of the SNAC Cooperative can go through those steps and join us on August 6th and 7th to learn how to create and edit data in SNAC and build your institution's corporate body profile and start linking up the collections.
So in the instance of the Field Museum, which has a corporate body record and a holding repository record, can they be merged so that the holding tabs is then just added to the corporate body one? It might be on the second page for what you're looking at.
Oh, okay. Good point. Let me see.
Well, that's weird.
It didn't give us a
Share my screen real quick just to show you what I'm looking at.
Sure.
Here's the registration for the event. I'll post that in the chat, by the way, for everybody online right now. And so this is the search results for the Field Museum of Natural History. Down here, we have
okay. I'm sorry, I didn't see that one at the end of the list.
But I believe it's just because the name's different. So the Field Museum Library.
Okay.
Right.
And so that to be like really sort of split the hairs here is that there are certainly valid scenarios where like the Field Museum has a library and the library would be its own corporate body entity in SNAC with its own related resources and holdings. But we could still get the Field Museum up and running as far as a holding institution quite easily.
Okay, great. That's all I wanted to know because I think that I think it was a good use case for this particular institution and making sure that we kind of let people know what the difference is between the two things. Like one is is based on archival records, and the other one is based on the institution itself as an entity for being a holding repository. But in some circumstances, they might benefit from being merged.
Yeah, so I'm making a note to myself to look into that in the production system and see if I can make that a more meaningful entry for both of them. And yes, in a lot of instances, class, you will notice while you're doing searching in SNAC that you will see duplicate entries for an entity that are exactly the same with no difference whatsoever, or entries that look the same. They're probably going to stack up one on top of the other alphabetically and might have a little bit of a difference to them. And those are instances where we look into merging those records during the research and development phase and the ingest of all the data. The super genius developers, computer scientists who got the information into SNAC had taught it to read EAD finding aids and catalog records and authority records and find matches and then merge them together to create one giant super SNAC authority record for one entity. But in many cases, the computer couldn't figure it out. So instead of merging it, it just created an additional authority record for something as even the tiny variation of like an extra comma or a period somewhere in a heading. And that created a situation of duplicates. And we are ongoing trying to merge those together as a data cleanup so that the reading one particular SNAC record is more meaningful than trying to decipher a couple that are almost the same thing. That's a part of the create and edit course too. So.
Well, awesome. Thank you, Jerry. And I think kind of a perfect segue into, like you said, the next event and letting people know what's going on with that. Registration is in the chat. And we have some other events as well that are not necessarily with the Indigenous focus that we are offering to the public as well. So feel free to share those with your colleagues and researchers who may be interested, et cetera. And with that, I'll go ahead and stop recording and we will go ahead and wrap up.